All right, well, what is going on YouTube? Welcome to our second About Teams video. And today we're just going to be doing a little Week 9 preview. And if you like what we're doing, you can check us out at aboutteams.com or on Twitter, or known as X now, at About Teams NFL. But it'll just be me today, and we're going to just, give a little preview of the games coming up and some things to watch out for this Sunday. And so the first thing I want to do as a Vikings fan myself is talk about Jared Hall starting. We all know last week Kirk Cousins suffered a torn Achilles and is now out for the rest of the year. That kind of left a big question mark at the trade deadline. I know they acquired Josh Dobbs from the Cardinals, who's a decent starter. He's all right, but I'm excited to see the rookie, see what he's got. The Falcons defense is pretty good. It should be a tough game. I mean, hopefully we can win, but it'll be interesting to see how he does. He's a little bit older for a rookie, around 25. So maybe a little bit of extra college experience should have him more prepared for this game. Full week of prep. I'm hoping we see something, but that'll definitely be something to watch out for as Jared Hall makes his debut in the NFL. Just a fifth-round pick out of last year's draft from BYU. So that's something to watch out for. And then the second thing I want to talk about is the Sunday night matchup of the Bills versus Bengals. Last year, I know I predicted the Bills to beat the Bengals in the divisional round, but that was simply not the case. And the Bengals destroyed them. It was 27-10. I think the Bengals won in Buffalo's building. It was just a disappointing way to go out. We saw the famous Diggs interaction with Josh Allen on the sidelines where he had his hands up, really mad, stormed out. There have been questions heading into training camp when he didn't show up the first day, what was going on. Eventually, everything worked itself out. But these are two teams that have gone off to decently slow starts. I know Buffalo is 5-3, and I believe the Cincinnati Bengals are 4-3. The Bengals started off 1-3, so really poor. They've been heating up kind of late, but something that I want to watch out for is the Bills, especially the offense. I know when you put up 10 points in a playoff game, you're disappointed, especially when you have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, James Cook, Gabe Davis, and a bunch of playmakers. And it was really salty. And a lot of people feel like Buffalo window has closed, but they're going back into Cincinnati for Sunday night. And I think it should be a great game. Joe Burrow got off to a slow start because of his injury. He suffered in training camp with the hamstring, and he looked really bad the first couple of weeks. But ever since, I think he's gone healthy. He's heated up and turned it around. But yeah, it'll be interesting to just see how Buffalo responds to all the criticism they hate. They lost to New England just a couple weeks ago on that walk-off touchdown. And they just had a couple weird losses. Both teams already have 3 losses, and whoever loses this game goes to their 4th loss in this competitive AFC where you have at least 9 teams right now above 500. I think the Bengals are the 9 seed, and they're 4-3. It's going to be interesting because there's a lot of pressure on both teams, but especially Buffalo, to respond to the critics that they can't beat these great teams and they're no longer in the Super Bowl contention. If they can go into Cincinnati and beat the team that's went to the Super Bowl just 2 years ago in the championship game last year, how they will do, especially Josh Allen. And then the third thing I want to talk about was the Jets' momentum. Can they keep this up? They have a game Monday night against the Chargers. And when Aaron Rodgers went down, everyone thought their season was over, and rightfully so. I mean, they acquired Aaron Rodgers to get him over the hump. He got injured on the first drive. It was sad to see. But with the surgery Aaron Rodgers got, he's already kind of just throwing the football now by himself. If he could be ready for playoff, if the Jets and Zach Wilson could just keep this momentum. I know they lost there after he went down. Despite winning that first game against Buffalo, they lost like 3 in a row. They were like 1-3. But they've gone on a winning streak. They're 4-3 now. They beat the Giants last week in an ugly win. If they could beat the Chargers, get to 5-3, keep riding this momentum, and just stay in the playoff picture until Aaron Rodgers comes back, wherever that may be, December, January. If they could somehow just maintain the ship with a strong defense led by Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, offensive weapons with Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson. But yeah, Zach Wilson's played a lot better. Gotta give him credit. He looked really not that great at the beginning of the season. When he played the Chiefs, something kind of switched. That was the best game he's ever played. And he's just been riding the ship, not turning the ball over, just playing effective ball. Let your playmakers playmake, just get the ball to them and let them do the rest. So if the Jets can once again pick up a win against a very Chargers team that seems to have really no life in them. I know they destroyed the Bears, but it's the Bears, and their Chargers are 3-4. They without Mike Williams for the rest of the year. And Brandon Staley probably going to be fired if they miss the playoffs after this year. It will be very interesting to watch. And so if the Jets can just keep riding this momentum until Rodgers gets back, they could be a dark horse team come January if he's fully healthy and recovered from his torn Achilles. And then now I'm just kind of going to preview the games who I think will win. I had an all right week last week. I know when we did our predictions, I did all right. There was a lot of iffy games that I was confident in, like the Chiefs beating the Broncos. That wasn't the case. And this week there are a lot of tough games. And it started Thursday night after Will Levis and the Titans threw for 4 touchdowns and he had an impressive debut last Sunday. They went into Pittsburgh on Thursday night against the Steelers team just coming off a 10-point loss to Jacksonville. But I took the Steelers at home. Thankfully, they were able to pull it out, so I started the week off 1-0 in my pool league, so no one thinks I'm lying. But now, when we look, we have, once again, early morning football, not in London, though, in Frankfurt, Germany, and we got a great game. Dolphins at Chiefs. And when looking at this, we all know Miami has a great offense. But when they've played teams like Buffalo and Philadelphia, where they have to, travel, I know this is in Germany, so both teams are traveling, but when they play these really good teams that we think are in the same tier, they kind of fall flat. Again, and they scored 17 against the Eagles, but one of them was a defensive touchdown, so they only scored 10 points. And it was just a very ugly game. Buffalo, they lost by like 28. It was like 50-20 or 48-20. And they just got dominated. And so it'll be interesting to see if Miami can keep up with the Super Bowl team like the Chiefs that we have super high expectations for. And I do have the Chiefs winning this one just because simply Miami has to prove it to me first before we can put them in that Super Bowl tier. I know Tua's had a great year. And they can beat up on these bad teams or even average teams. But when they elite teams, they tend to struggle and get bullied by. Jalen Ramsey looked good in his return last week. So maybe that can help put them over the edge if he could force another turnover, Sire Mahomes. Because the Chiefs are coming off a rough loss on their own to the Broncos. Dolphins beating the Patriots last week. So a little bit more momentum after the Eagles game, which they did not impress me. But I do have Kansas City bouncing back. Patrick Mahomes in bounce back games. He rarely ever loses 2 straight. I mean, barely loses any games in the regular season. So, yeah, I got the Chiefs win that one, 9:30 a.m. So when we wake up, we got to tune into a game like that. The next game, my Vikings travel to Atlanta to face the Falcons. I mean, I'm going to roll with the Vikings here. I mean, I am a Vikings fan, so even if they were playing the Chiefs, I'd probably pick them in an upset. But I do like the Vikings. I mean, their defense has really turned it around since last year with Ed Donachelle, as we call him, because he just played so off coverage. Opponents were just eating us up underneath. But Brian Flores has turned this defense into something. It's been an average pack, even almost top 10 yardage defense per play is actually 9th in the NFL. So they've had a, pretty, I think 18th in points. They've had a pretty good start to the year. I think Brian Flores, he's done an amazing job. He deserves a second chance to be a head coach. I think with Taylor Heineke also starting a new starting quarterback in Atlanta with Desmond Ridder getting benched. I do like the Vikings in this one. I think Jared Hall will just do enough, and I think Kevin O'Connell will scheme up just to get to Jordan Addison, Alexander Madison, hopefully, and Cam Akers can run the ball effectively. Just get to Addison, Hawkinson, just get in your playmakers' hands. Even Brandon Powell can do something before Justin Jefferson, who should be returning within the next week or two, hopefully. I think just ride the ship. I think you don't need to do too much. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, like 2017, but I think the Vikings will pull it out. Atlanta's not that great of an offense. Their defense is very solid, but losing Grady Jarrett for the season will hurt them as well. But I do have the Vikings winning. And then we have the Seahawks traveling to Baltimore. This shouldn't be an easy game for either team, but I mean, the Ravens have just been playing some great ball. They're 6-2. They beat the Lions like a week ago, 38-6. Last week, once again, won. They've just been playing great football. They beat the Cardinals. Gus Edwards had 3 touchdowns, which was great for my fantasy team last week. But I just think the Ravens are the better team. Seattle's good, 5-2. Geno Smith hasn't even had the year he had last year, but I mean, that defense, Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen, they've done their job. They're 5-2. They're a very solid team. But once again, when Pacific Coast teams travel out east, I got to roll with the Ravens. It's never easy. It's basically like them playing a 9:00 game, so their bodies may not be all the way there. So I think Baltimore at home should win. Then we got the Cardinals at Browns. Not sure whether it's going to be Kyler Murray or I think it's Clayton Tune, the rookie, getting the start after Joshua Dobbs being traded to the Vikings. I got the Browns. I think they'll bounce back. Great defense overall. And with Myles Garrett, I just think they're enough. The Cardinals have one win on the year. It's in Cleveland. I think they get to 5-3, despite the quarterback questions with Deshaun Watson and PJ Walker. And then Rams at Packers really depends on Matthew Stafford's status for this game with his thumb injury. The Packers have lost, I believe it is 4 in a row after starting the season 2-1. They're now 2-5, looking really ugly against the Vikings. No one's doing their job. Jordan Love is missing throws. The defense isn't stopping the pass. They can't run the ball effectively with A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones has some couple decent runs, but he hasn't been the same, battling injuries all year. So, but the Rams also got destroyed by the Cowboys last week. They're 3-5, kind of ugly. They got some weapons in Nakua and Cooper Kupp. But at the end of the day, I think I'll roll with the Rams here, even though it's in Lambeau. I think they just got more talent and playmakers, and Green Bay is in this slope where they just can't seem to get out of it, and they got to beat someone for me to probably pick them again, unless they're going up against the Cardinals. But I think the Rams will win if Stafford plays. However, if they don't win, I'll probably take the Packers just because after that, I mean, the Rams aren't that great of a team either, and the Packers may be able to get it done, get an interception or two off whoever's starting for them. And then we got Buccaneers at Texans. Texans was really high on. Had them as a lock of the week against the Panthers, who were winless going into last week, but they lost. They're still 3-4. I mean, the CJ Stroud has been great so far this season. Tampa Bay's been up and down. They started off the season 3-1. Now they've come back to earth a little bit. Now at 3-4 on their own losing streak. But I like the Buccaneers bouncing back here. I think they just got the talent. They got a solid defense with Vita Vea, Levante David, Devin White, and just weapons with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I think they'll have enough. I think it'll be a scrappy game, like another one where it might be 20-17, but I'll roll with the Buccaneers here. Washington at New England. The Patriots did all right against the Dolphins last week in Miami after coming off that Bills win. Sam Howell has impressed me, though, despite the Commanders being only 3-5. He's gone through his ups and downs, but he's looked pretty okay. I think, once again, though, Bill Belichick against technically it's a second year, but against quarterbacks really starting their first year always seems to have their number. I think this is one of those games where Sam Howell is just going to take a little bit to struggle, might get going at the end. But I think the Patriots will win this one at New England. Just going to be one of those weird Bill Belichick games where they just kind of find a way. So I got New England win that one. Bears at New Orleans. I got the Saints here. Derek Carr. They're fighting for the playoffs now that Kirk Cousins is injured. The 7th seed is up in the air, and they need to win this game at home, especially against the Bears if they want to get it. And I think they will. I think they're overall got solid defense. Chris Olave on offense. Just got good enough playmakers with Kamara, and Derek Carr looked better last week. I think they'll win, and that they need to win this, so that's more so why I'm picking them. Then we got Colts at Carolina. I think Carolina won't go on a 2-game win streak. Bryce Young has looked better over the last couple of weeks, led a game-winning drive last week to get them into field goal range. So that was awesome to see with the number 1 pick in him and number 2 overall pick in CJ Stroud dueling it out. But I got the Colts here. They got a decent offense. Gardner Minshew has been fine with Anthony Richards going down, one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. He can manage the game, get it to Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, who's been looking great. Jonathan Taylor getting more of a workload, and Zach Moss. I just trust the Colts offense more. And I think they'll just outduel the Panthers, who, I mean, it's great to see Thielen having a bounce back, but outside of him, they don't really have any playmakers. Miles Sanders hasn't been that great this year. And then we got Giants with the new look Raiders, with them firing Josh McDaniels and their GM after their debacle Monday night where Davante Adams was clearly frustrated on the sidelines. And it's something weird, but whenever a team fires their head coach, the team always seems, at least the first week, to rally around the new interim. And I think the Raiders will do it here at home. Giants are not a great team. They've choked away the game against the Jets, just awful. They were up 10-7, and they just blew it at the end, missing their own field goal, letting the Jets score with a kick a field goal with like 2 seconds and then losing in overtime. And even if Daniel Jones is back, I still think the Raiders will win this. Aiden O'Connell starting as Jimmy G is now benched. for who knows how long, could be the rest of the season, depending how O'Connell looks. But I think the Raiders will win this one somehow, ugly fashion. Two teams that have been both disappointments, but should be an interesting one to watch. And then probably one of the best games of the week, we got the Cowboys at Eagles at the 4:25 slot. And I simply just got the Eagles just because it's in Philadelphia. They are a great team. And both teams are pretty good, but the Cowboys, when I pick them against San Fran, it just seems like the Cowboys fall short against the big teams when they're healthy and with Jalen Hurts there. This time I know the Cowboys beat them last year with Gardner Minshew starting for the Eagles, but I don't really count that. And with the Eagles fully healthy, I mean, they only have one loss on the year, and they could have easily beaten the Jets, but offensive line's great. The defensive line is great as well. Their back end, despite having Darius Slay, gives me some worries as they have gone carved up through the air a decent amount. But against the Cowboys, I think it'll be a close game. But I still think the Eagles are going to win at home. I think they're just the better team. Cowboys really miss Trayvon Diggs, who's out for the year with his torn ACL that happened earlier. But it will be a good game. Cowboys are a good team. They'll keep it interesting. But I think the Eagles are just the better team and more well-coached team. And then the Sunday night game, we talked about it earlier, Bills at Bengals. I'm going to ride with the Bills here. I don't know if it's my love for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, but they shouldn't have 3 losses, and I think they're pissed about last year. I know Diggs is, the way things ended. I think they'll go out in Cincinnati and make a statement. I know the Bengals are riding high off their win at San Fran, which is very impressive. Should be a great game. I think it'll be like a 30-27 type game, but I got Buffalo winning. I think Josh Allen will just do enough, and I think they want revenge for what happened last year in the divisional round, getting spanked in their own building. It's embarrassing, and they want to prove that their window isn't closed and that this year there's still a chance for them. And then we'll head on to the Monday night game where we got the Chargers at Jets. Chargers look great against the Bears, but that's not really saying much. The Jets scraped their way against the Giants. Wasn't a team you really want to scrape your way, but they just keep finding ways, and that's all you need to do while you're waiting for Aaron Rodgers, who hopes to return this year. Just keep clawing. I love Robert Saleh as a head coach. His work in San Fran was great, and he just keeps finding a way, and it's very impressive. After starting off 1-3, it looked like the season's over, but they rallied around. Zach Wilson's playing much better ball. Just get it to your playmakers. Should be a good one. I mean, Justin Herbert's in a top 10 quarterback in this league, despite not having Mike Williams, Scott Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Joshua Palmer, who stepped up in the role of Mike Williams being out for the year. But I do have the Jets winning in a super close one. One of those games might be like 23-20, but the Chargers defense is nothing special. So Zach Wilson and Breece Hall can take advantage in the running game and just find a way that they keep winning. And those are the game picks for this week. We hope to keep getting more content out to you guys soon. Have a good one.